just living a normal life. You just living your life are going to break some statute in just normal day living.
Well, let me ask you this then. How do you feel about, because probably the biggest or the most popular videos on YouTube, or seems to be the one that are most prevalent with sovereign citizens, are the driving without a license. Is that something that you think is okay, or what's your thought on that?
Um, I would first start with the insurance part. I believe that everybody needs some insurance. It's hard for me when you start contemplating on your stuff, like let's say some mom got a bunch of tickets when she was younger, or maybe a small DWI, she lost her license and hadn't had much money to get our licenses, because all this stuff takes quite a bit of money and time to get back. Unless she's had one or two kids and she just needs to go to church or go get some groceries up the street. In my right, she should safely be able to go and not do business, but to go handle her affairs safely on the road with insurance without having to register or spending a bunch of money unnecessarily just to live her normal life.
Okay. I want to, Artie, can you clarify on those videos? A lot of times you hear them say that they are traveling and not driving, that there's a distinction made. Some of them will cite court cases where the Supreme Court has said that people have the innate right to travel and not. There's a difference there between driving. Can you clarify what that difference is?
Yeah. On that note, going towards James's, no victim, no crime, and the premise behind victimless crimes. I tend to, lean on that side of the fence. My personal ideology, my personal belief. But again, like I said, I always emphasize, our legal precedent for more than a century has said the state can employ at least the literal United States of the individual states can employ these sorts of laws for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizenry, what's generally considered the police powers. But I always tell these people, just because I say that the state can charge me $50 every freaking year to register my car doesn't mean I don't think it's a fucking racket. So again, just I emphasize, just because they can doesn't mean they should. So on to your point. Mm-hmm. A lot of these right to travel folks, they often cite these court cases, oftentimes out of context, oftentimes that do not agree with what they're saying, and in fact, some of the cases actually go against them. Again, it goes into a misunderstanding of the law. What you go into the right to travel is oftentimes they will cite a particular court case that does emphasize that, where they say the citizenry, in the United States have a right to travel, in the United States. They cite that from the Articles of Confederation, and then later on they say that the Constitution, through inference, has also employed it, even if it's not explicitly said. The problem is what is generally meant by the right to travel means that I do not need to pay Texas $50 for the privilege of moving there, or I don't have to go to I have to pay California $50 just to visit for the day. There's no never mind the whole toll roads and everything like that. It's a separate issue, but there's no toll at the state border charging you money just for the privilege of being able to go into one state or another. Right to travel also gets into the discussion when we're talking about a child custody, being able to take your child out of the state for vacation while they have visitation, or being able to obtain state benefits when you move into the state. That is where the right to travel is generally invoked. Where it is not invoked and where it has been rejected is the premise that the imposition of driver's licenses or registration or requiring the ability to have insurance is a fundamental restriction upon your ability to go from A to B. Often, and the state and the courts have generally said over and over and over again, you have imposition of these restrictions, aka driver's licenses, are a rational means of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of its citizenry on the highways, and it is not so much a detriment that it is a fundamental rejection of your rights. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I would add into that is, actually, I'll leave it at that. That is essentially what the states have said, that imposition of these is not a fundamental breach of your rights. Because not only you're not restricted to driving. You can walk, you can take a bus, you can ride a bike, or you can take a cab. You have other means of traveling from point A to point B. That's also another aspect that they look at.
King, real quick, King, it sounds like you're eating your mic. Can you maybe move it away?
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise.
It's very,
That's okay.
Yeah, it's very, very. But also, Artie, there's also this driver license compact, is there not, between states when you're saying that you're able to travel?
Yes.
There's a compact between all states that allows one valid driver's license. It's like I'm in California. I can be driving anywhere in the United States because of a compact that all the states have. Canadians have a similar thing. Canadians come down and they have a valid driver's license. So that's another thing, that is freedom to travel from state to state with one valid driver's license. One
Correct.
driver's license, one.
Correct. The only time that they'll require is if you're actually moving into the state. Then they can require that you get a driver's license for that state. But yes, you're right. The driver's license compact is there for that reason as well.
Do y'all think that there is anybody getting special treatment? Anyone, whether they're agents, government workers, or anything like that, when it comes to the highways and byways?
In what way?
I mean,
James Freeman, have you ever seen a tax exempt plate?
Yeah.
Seen a what plate?
A
tax exempt, like government cars that are tax exempt. Yeah.
I've seen them actually, and I've taken a picture of one and I said, "Oh, look, there's a sovereign citizen. He's exempt from the rules."
Thank you. There are certain people that, I ain't gonna say that. Let me just do this. I think the main thing with this sovereign citizen, and the reason is the banking system. Fractional banking, like common services, is worse than any standing army. If we don't have control over making and coining our own money, like they said, don't give me your money, and I don't care who makes your laws. If we do not, and there's two things that, as a citizen, bothers me. That's judges having judicial immunity to do whatever they want, no matter what, in the courtroom, and the Federal Reserve.
Oh, is that?
What is that law? Wait, what law says that?
Judicial immunity.
Okay, I'm going to clarify. Judicial immunity is reserved for that the judge cannot be sued
For
based on what they do in the course of their duties. In other words, just because a judge finds you guilty doesn't mean that you can just turn around and sue his ass because you disagree with the judge.
No, exactly.
That's what judicial immunity is.
But I still think
it is not a blanket immunity.
There needs
If the
to be
judge
a
turns
hand
around
of
and kills
protection.
somebody, he's going to get charged with a crime.
Hang on, King. Hang on, King.
Okay.
King, hang on one sec.
Yes,
on that judicial immunity, correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't account for judicial misconduct, correct?
Of course not. No.
So they're not a blanket immunity. It's not like they have.
The state has to waive
But it's
their
not
own
like
sovereignty.
But it's not like they have this general immunity that they can get away with doing anything in their courtroom. They have to abide by the rules, and if they're in the
Judicial
judicial,
immunity means that if they
hang on,
injure
King, hang on, no,
it doesn't
hang on,
matter more or less.
King, hang on. If they're in their judicial capacity and they do a ruling, you cannot civilly go after them. If, however, they do something that is against the law, for fraud, or they do something that is clearly in violation of the law, and they knowingly, willfully do something along those lines, that's a different thing. They don't have blanket immunity for that. If I'm a judge and I know I'm going to railroad you and I'm going to fabricate testimony and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure you go to jail, the judge could be criminally liable for that. Could they not, Art?
Yeah. What's your example,
Right?
King?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean,
was
you don't have this
talking to this
blanket immunity like
contract
you say.
law, and I go to court,
Mm-hmm.
and learning about the name, the difference between a legal person and a lawful person, and wanting to find out who the court clerk had appointed who in the case and who was who before I contracted or done anything. I had had some very, very bad situations with law enforcement because of certain people I know and certain things I know they've done. That's I go into the courtroom, he calls my name, I say I'm here on special appearance. He goes up, I said, sir, may I ask a question before I come before the bench? I need to know who everybody is before I contract. And I've got anxiety anyway, and I'm about half frozen trying to stand up in front of everybody and nervous. And he says, no, sir, come on forward. And I know by admiralty law, that looks as a boarding the ship. You're accepting jurisdiction. As soon as you, that's why they call it the bar, British Accredited Registry. Okay.
Hold on.
Wait, just hear me out. Just hear me out.
I'm going to. I just want to take them piece by piece so that we don't get so far ahead that we can't, come back. So can we ask Artie about the stepping on once you once you cross that threshold, then you're accepting a contract. I just want to know if that's a thing, and then we'll let you pick back up on that thought.
I have never, in any of my years of law school and any of years since the law school, clerking with judges, clerking at a county courthouse, I have never heard of the premise that merely passing through, the bar that we all see is somehow a signal or a legal recognition of jurisdiction or any of that nature. It is just merely you are just entering into the courtroom.
Okay. And
I have never heard of it having any sort of legal significance.
Okay. Now can you go ahead and pick up the...
Okay. From what I must studied, it's admiralty law and in contract that's offer and acceptance. Come forward as an offer, going forward as an acceptance. Okay. Just like anything, when they call your name, they want you to say the name so that they know how jurisdiction of the person, so that you're still, in a way, dead, not knowing that you're spirit and not flesh. And then you're saying, hey, I'm still your created entity. When you sent me that paper, see, anyway, I'm not going to get it. Anyway, I'm still with anxiety, and I'm like, sir, can I please ask you a question? He says, no, sir, I'm going to ask you one more time or come forward. And I said, sir, before I go forward or contract with anybody, I need to know who you've been appointed to before I contract with anybody. And I was new to all this. And it's before I know it, I was waking up in a jail cell, spitting out almost every one of my teeth. I took martial arts all my life, right? The way you crack somebody's neck is you do something, a downfall, where you take their legs out from under them, you put your forearm in the back of their neck, and you put their jawbone into the floor, and it snaps their neck. That was exactly what they done to me, and they tased me in the temple, and it knocked me out. The next thing I knew, I woke up in the jail cell spitting up all my teeth. I was brought out back there drooling all over myself. They hand me just hear me out. They hand me what's the guy's name we're talking to that went to law school?
Artie.
Artie, what is it?
Artie.
The piece of paper, the very first thing they hand to you?
Hand to you when?
To sign your rights away to counsel.
I assume you're talking about a waiver?
If you want counsel.
A waiver form?
Your way, thank you. They hand me a waiver. I didn't remember all this. I was concussed. It took me a couple of days, and it finally started coming back where they tased me in the head. They brought me back out there drooling all over myself. I didn't want to sign anything. And I signed the waiver.
Why did they tase you again? Can you go into a little bit more detail on that?
Because he refused to come forward. He refused to come forward.
No, it was like the officer said they thought I went out of honor, and he said, we own your ass now.
Because
when I looked up. This goes way deeper. This has something to do with
have that on video?
The judicial system.
Answer James's question. Answer James's question, King.
Again, please. James, ask it again.
Do you have that on video?
Yeah, I wrote you a long time ago to see if you wanted to come and videotape my local government